So, when you're listing off Spider-Man's greatest foes, a few big names always pop up, right? And you can bet the Sandman is on that list. But this guy, this living mountain of sand who can literally slip through your fingers, has one of the most complex and honestly tragic stories in all of comics. There is so much more to him than just being another bad guy.
Okay, let's just dive right in. This is the image we all know. Popping up way back in The Amazing Spider-Man #4, the Sandman, aka Flint Marko, is this shape-shifting powerhouse. I mean, he can go toe-to-toe, not just with Spidey, but with heavy hitters like the Hulk and the entire Fantastic Four.
But is that all he is, really? Just another monster of the week for the heroes to punch? Well, as we're about to see, his journey is this constant battle, and not just against superheroes. It's a battle against his own nature, his past, and his own fractured identity.
So, to really understand the man, we've got to start with the monster. What can this guy actually do? His powers are, well, they're incredible. He has total control over every single particle of his body. He can make himself as hard as rock or as loose as desert sand. He can absorb sand from his surroundings and grow to the size of a building. He can turn his hands into giant maces or hammers. You get the picture. He's basically invulnerable to most physical attacks. But for all that insane power, he's got some very specific weaknesses. You crank up the heat high enough, he turns to glass. Get him wet enough, and he becomes a soggy, immobile mess. But here's the real kicker. His entire consciousness, his whole mind, is linked to one single, specific grain of sand in his body. Find that grain, and you've got him.
So how does a guy from Queens end up like this? Well, his story doesn't kick off with superpowers. Nope. It starts with a tough life and this series of really bad decisions. And this timeline, it really lays out the whole slippery slope that was his early life. He was born William Baker, but his father took off. For a while, he found some passion in sand sculptures and football, but then he fixes a game for a friend and gets kicked out of school. To spare his mom the shame of his growing criminal record, he takes on the name Flint Marko, inspired by a coach who told him he'd never make a mark on the world. Kind of sad, right?
The crazy thing is, he never asked for these powers. It was a complete accident. While he's on the run from prison, he just happens to stumble onto a nuclear test site on a beach. A reactor goes haywire, bathes him in radiation, and fuses his molecules with the sand all around him. In that moment, William Baker was gone, and the Sandman was born.
So, armed with these new abilities, Flint Marko doesn't just go back to being a petty criminal. Oh no, he becomes a supervillain, a major player in the criminal underworld. And we're not talking small-time stuff. He was a founding member of not one, but two of Marvel's most infamous supervillain teams. The Sinister Six, whose whole goal was to destroy Spider-Man, and the Frightful Four, the evil version of the Fantastic Four. Yeah, he was a force to be reckoned with from day one. But you gotta love this. His career wasn't always so glamorous. In his very first throwdown with a teenage Spider-Man, the web-slinger didn't beat him with some epic punch. Nope. He beat him with a vacuum cleaner from the school's janitor closet. A vacuum cleaner. A pretty humble beginning for such a legendary rivalry. But after years of being this top-tier villain, the story of Flint Marko takes this sharp, totally unexpected turn towards, well, redemption. So what kicked it all off? It actually started after this freak accident where he gets merged with another villain, Hydro Man. That experience forced him to really look at his life. Later, of all people, the Thing gives him a pep talk, telling him to straighten up. That push led him to become a mercenary for Silver Sable's Wild Pack, actually working alongside heroes. And the change was absolute. I mean, look at this. The man who co-founded the Sinister Six and Frightful Four eventually got a presidential pardon and even became a reserve member of the Avengers. He was fighting for the very people he used to terrorize. It's wild. But you know how it is in the world of comics. Happy endings, they rarely stick. Just as Flint Marko had finally found his place as a hero, his old life came roaring back to haunt him in the most brutal way imaginable. Now, to explain his sudden U-turn back to villainy, the writers used a little trick called a retcon. They basically needed a way to undo years of character development, and they found a pretty dark one involving one of Sandman's old associates. As Sandman himself kinda admits, being a hero wasn't easy for him.
And that internal struggle was the perfect opening for his old boss, the Wizard. He kidnapped Marco and used a mind control machine to forcibly rewire his brain, basically just flipping his personality back to its evil setting. He didn't choose to go back, he was forced.
And this forced return to villainy wasn't just a mental thing. It had catastrophic physical consequences. During a fight, Venom literally tore a chunk out of his body. That missing sand completely destabilized his entire form, and he just washed away down a sewer, his mind and body literally scattered to the winds.
So, the Sandman of today is a fundamentally broken man. His mind has fractured into separate good and evil personalities that are constantly at war with each other. He's found this terrifying form of immortality that he doesn't even want, and his only real motivation now is protecting his daughter Kiyomi. He's not just a simple villain anymore, or a reformed hero. He's a tragedy. So that leaves us with the ultimate question. After a lifetime of being pulled between good and evil, being manipulated, being literally broken apart and put back together, who is Flint Marko? Is there any one true identity left in there? Or is he just destined to be forever scattered and redefined by the circumstances of his own chaotic, shifting life?